Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna make some diamond painting creations, one I had lying around in the house, and 4 of them I made myself by looking up pixel art pictures on Pinterest and then recreating them on like mini canvases I had laying around. So with that being said, let's go to that video. So today I'm gonna read 3 stories from Reddit I found. The first one is called Demon in Abandoned Mental Hospital. It's a story that they're gonna tell about something that their friend has experienced. So here it goes. He and a few of his friends went to an abandoned mental hospital in our city. They like to explore those buildings all the time. So it's late one night and there is a field of tall grass leading up to the building. There is obviously no light in the building and there's also no one there. The only thing there is a creepy aura. 2 of the big black dudes that came with us stopped at the door and actually refused to go in. So the other ones go down the halls floor by floor, but there's nothing in any of the rooms. The only thing there is a crazed mindless writing all over the walls in many of them. When they finally make it to the top floor, and it's nothing but a long, pitch black hallway with a door at the end of it. They all walk down the hall, all being crazy adventurers that they are, deciding to see what's inside. However, it's only one door in the building that's locked, and it's that one. Multiple guys pound and kick at the door and try to break it open, but it won't budge. One guy shines his flashlight in the keyhole to see what's inside. Nothing, except for the crazed writing on the wall that was visible by only the feint of light. After failing once again to break down the door, they give up and walk down the hall. When they get to the end of the stairwell, they hear the door fling open and slam to the wall. It's still pitch black, and the only thing they can see is a huge, shadowy figure in the doorway. They hear thumping, slow at first, but then the pace quickens. The figure is running towards them. They sprint down the stairs faster than they ever could run before, and all the while they hear just a few flights above them. Thump, 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 thump. They make it to the first door and burst out the door where the 2 guys are waiting outside. They tell them to run and they all sprint to the van and get in and pull away. They look to the window and see that a huge dark figure is still chasing them. So, that was the last of the first story. At least for as far as we know, because the writer of this post didn't elaborate what happened afterwards. Did the shadow figure follow them home or attach himself to the person? Because we know that the dog really loves to attach themselves to the curious and the innocent. With that being said, let's go to the next story. Being choked by something unknown. A little background before we begin the story. I was a Girl Scout from kindergarten to the 8th grade. I was in 2 troops, the first being my best friends at the time and my mom. And my mom was the assistant troop leader. After a while, her mom was taking advantage of the money, so my mom decided to make a new troop and became the leader. The summer of the 8th grade, my mom decided as a final to the end of us being the troop to take a couple of my friends and I on a trip to Savannah, Georgia. Savannah is where the founder of the Girl Scouts was born, Judith Lowe. It's also one of the most haunted cities in the United States and even in the world. We drove down to Savannah and stayed at the hotel for a few days and decided to tour some of the famous locations where both Girl Scouts related was and also just popular places. One of these locations was Andrew Lowe's house. The house where Juliet died in. Supposedly a lot of other deaths occurred in the house. Anyways, the first time we toured in the house, the other girls went to the other moms to do other things. It was just my mom and I touring with maybe like 4 moms and the girls, so it was a small tour group. When I first walked into the house, I immediately felt unstable. Of course, the house was very old, so it could be that it was something to do with that. The house also smelled distinctly of a faint of a perfume belonging to a woman. It could have been one of the ladies at the front desk. Later it was said this scent was reportedly that was one of the women that had died here. When the tour guide let us in one of the first rooms, I immediately noticed that there were mirrors on almost every single wall, and if you'd done some research you would know that this causes portals for and entryways for spirits to be opened up. In that room I stayed in the back of the group just to see if I could feel anything. I was wearing 2 crystal necklaces that I had gotten a month prior during our trip to Washington DC. All of a sudden I felt a strong stuck around my neck and was almost choked for a few seconds. I don't know why, but I could feel the presence of an angry woman. I immediately turned around and nobody was inside. So I asked my mom if she had pranked me or something, but she denied and acted like I was making it up or something. Not long after, I felt the same sensation again. My mom told me after the first time that I told her, she was tempted to do it but didn't. Although it's impossible she could have done this, because she was in nowhere reach of me. No air condition of any kind could have done this either. There were no windows open or any fans around either. Not that the wind would have mattered, because I remember that day rather being hot, and there was no wind to relieve that. There were some other strange occurrences that happened during the day, like feeling watched or feeling like someone was behind me, when I was the last person in the group to leave the room. But this one stayed with me the most, because it bothered me the most. So that was everything for this story, and now we go over to the last story. This story is called A Visit from a Little Girl. I grew up as one of the 7 of a dairy farm in the 90s. The house we lived in was rebuilt on a foundation of a former house that had burned down in the late 1800s. My siblings and I were in the first generation of our family to grow up on this property, so there was no mysterious history as far as I know. When I was 9, the oldest 2 siblings had left for college, which allows my sister and I to get each our own rooms after sharing a bedroom for my whole childhood. I was notoriously a restless sleeper, given into talking, walking, and even once hissing and attacking my oldest brother while he was in the bathroom. Within the first month of having my own room, I woke up in the middle of the night, wide awake with the lights on. I was truly shocked to see a little girl in the cubby hole in the corner of my room. She looked younger than me with dirty, curly blonde hair, and wore a flowered dress. She looked right at me and began walking towards me as I sat frozen in my bed. When she reached the edge, she said, "I'm gonna show you what happened to me," and reached up to touch my forehead. I was immediately transported into a small backyard, which looked overgrown, and the fence was somewhat shabby and run down. Near the fence, with her back to me, sat the little girl playing with the doll. She was facing towards the fence, so she couldn't see the woman who was approaching her from the shed to her right. The woman carried a garden machete with her. As she reached the girl turned and looked up at her, as the woman swung with the machete down to the girl's neck. I immediately woke up in my bed, lights off, frozen in terror. I laid in my bed for what I felt like a long time, frozen, just looking around trying to see if the little girl was here. When I saw nothing, I leapt from my bed across the room where the light switch was and flipped it on. Then I ran down the hall to my parents. My mom pretty much wrote it off as my standard restless sleeping, but she told me to go back to bed. But I was so scared that I went to the living room and turned all the lights on and the television too. So I stayed up the rest of the night. Even though it's been a long time, I still think about this. And even when I tell this story out loud to anyone, the chills run down my spine and hair stand up in my neck. So this was the last story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. If you like my video and my crafts and my stories, then don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, ring that notification bell, and comment something down below. With that being said guys, bye bye!